Good morning, it's Paul Bursey and welcome to healthierlife.tv. My co-presenter is...
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Warren Connolly. And again, welcome to healthierlife.tv. Happy Wednesday.
Fantastic. So, Dave is going to like this program. Okay, so revealed the shocking truth about the sunshine vitamin. And to be fair, there is no shocking truth. Okay, that was just a headline I used because it might have sparked a bit more interest.
Just to shock your eyes.
Sorry?
Just to shock the eyes.
Yeah. So, despite its name, vitamin D, the sunshine vitamin, is not a vitamin. Okay? So, but it's a pro-hormone or precursor to a hormone.
It's a protein, It's
lipid hormones. However, the body itself is a miracle. It's a marvel. And most of the time it's self-healing. However, what it does need is help. And one of these things that it needs help with, or many things, are micronutrients. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But now vitamin D is classified as a micronutrient. Okay. And it is really vital, crucial that we have this in our lives. Would you agree, Warren?
Well, it is an essential, right? And it's an essential because we don't produce it, so we need it. We need it from other sources.
Well, the body can produce vitamin D, but basically not enough. So that's the problem. And it also, as we know, it stores it as well. So. But generally speaking, the body can't create it, and so a person must consume it in their diet, or sorry,
what's the or?
What's the or?
Or they must take it. Or they must take some kind of supplementation for it.
Supplementation, or get it from the sun.
Get outside from the sun.
Yeah. So.
But you mentioned, you touched on something there, and I know you probably, knowing how you do your setup for these calls, you're probably going to go back to it at some point. But
micronutrient.
We definitely need to talk about the storing of vitamin.
Oh yeah.
How the body, not how the body stores it, but how the body stores it. That's important for people to also.
Yeah, it's basically I know this one. It's basically stored in the liver and the fatty adipose bits around your body.
Yeah, because it's a fat soluble, right?
It's fat soluble.
Yeah,
the same.
Your body will store it like you, because when you need it in the winter time.
That's right.
So that it slowly releases that vitamin D into the system. So especially around winter.
Yeah, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. They're the 4 fat soluble micronutrients and vitamins. And it's important, and each one of them is different in how they're stored and how much you need. Some of the vitamins you don't need every day. Okay, but again, it's what's stored in your body as well. So your body can sort of live off those bits that we've looked after, and it just means you've done something right to be storing it. But you can. That's one of the other things with vitamin D is it can be overdosed on, but it is so rare to do that. Okay, and the one it affects more than anything, and I'll come back to that, is pregnant women.
Okay,
too much is really too much. So anyway,
why is that? Oh, you said you're going to come back to that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll as a famous speaker for the president says, I'll circle back on that one.
And do they ever?
I don't know because I don't follow it that much. But it's just a comment that I heard.
You don't follow that much.
Well, I do. Anyway, so vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. It's responsible for increasing intestinal absorption of calcium, magnesium, and phosphate, and many other biological effects, in all of us humans, and it is absolutely vital So, it also has other multiple roles in the body. Can you think of any? Because when we think of
your immune system for one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's I mean, when your body's producing, or not when your body's producing, but when your body's assimilating it, you typically it ups your mood. When you have sufficient amounts of vitamin D in your body, your mood, your temperament, I guess, is also elevated.
Absolutely.
So I think it's the immune system is probably the most, and it's also to do with your bone and with relation to calcium and things like that. So your bone density, and this is where also calcium can be an issue if you're overdosing on vitamin D. But it's, I think, the most important thing for me personally is your immune system.
I think also promoting healthy bones and teeth. We've also got the nervous system requires vitamin D to keep it healthy. Also, a big thing, and you forget this stuff sometimes, and that is to do with diabetes. It's great for diabetes management, and also regulating insulin, the levels of insulin. So very, very important for both types of diabetics.
Okay.
Supports lung function again. So maybe for those smokers out there.
Not just that, but we know how many people have been struggling with breathing issues in the last 2 years.
Pulmonary stuff and all that. Great for cardiovascular health as well. So, and the reason being, I think, is because your all your veins and all that type, when things start to fur up, it's got something to do with that as well. So it helps obviously keep them clear, I would think. So and it's got something to do with the DNA as well, because it influences the expression of genes involved in can't even read my own writing here. But development. But I had to write them down because I'd never remembered them. But so now we're all uniquely individual when it comes to vitamin D, right? And then I say our needs are different. Now it depends on your age. It depends on your lifestyle choices, your geography, where you are in the world, and exposure to sunlight. So we're all different, and age is very, very important. Again, we'll circle back to that as well.
And your skin complexion too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's how vital it is. And I look at it this way: it's when you talk about synergy, when you talk about the makeup of the body, then we're talking about, it's a puzzle, isn't it? It's like the puzzle map. When you put all pieces of the puzzle together, and vitamin D is one of the major pieces that we need in our diet and our life. So also has a big thing about tiredness and fatigue as well. That's the other thing we didn't mention. So again, you probably look at vitamin D.
You mean in alleviating fatigue?
Yeah, helping when you helps reduce tiredness and fatigue. So again, very, very important. Now, one size doesn't fit all. We are all unique.
Sure.
Okay. Now, vitamin D, that has a tremendous impact on the body. And again, think about when we go out. If it's hot sunshine, right? If it's a normal day, it's not too bad. But if it's hot out and it's at its highest level, the UVB rays and all things like that, then we tend to cover up. We tend to cover up in the winter even more.
Mm-hmm.
And we need our skin to be exposed to the vitamin D from the sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
However, you can't do it for too long. Okay, so it's a very fine dividing line. 10 to 15 minutes is okay. But if you were to do it every day of your life, then you may have problems later on. You can see where I'm going with this.
I don't know, can I?
Yeah, with cancer. and things like skin cancer. So again, because what we tend to do at different times is we will use the old suntan lotion. Well, suntan lotion will shut out the vitamin D.
Well, not just that, but also suntan lotion these days has been shown to be very toxic to the system in any case.
Yeah, I'm sure there must be some reasonable ones. I haven't looked into.
Yeah, there are some more natural type of, but that's besides the point. Okay, so, but you're right, and even in some parts of the world, we've had this conversation. Some parts of the world, when there is sunshine, people are covering themselves up as well. If you look at the Middle East, in particular, North Africa.
You mentioned that the other day, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot of people are covering themselves up completely, and they actually have some of the highest levels of deficiency in vitamin D in the world. And it's so ironic because there's so much sunshine there, but they cover it up so much. It's to protect themselves from the sun, and also it's the clothing that they wear. It keeps them cool. But their whole body is covered up. So
yeah,
it's ironic, but it is what it is, and this is why there's so many people around the world that are deficient.
Yeah, I think even in the Western world, as it's so called, about 50% of people are deficient of vitamin D.
Well, we found out the other day through some education, some training that you and I both attended, is that they estimated to say like 1 billion people around the world are deficient of vitamin D. So that's 1 in 7 people are deficient in vitamin D. Yeah. That's huge.
I actually think it's probably more. I think they're playing on the safe side there, because if we take a balanced approach to the body, 97% of people are out of balance.
Yeah,
and that's at a cellular level. So I wouldn't know whether it's 97% of people are deficient of vitamin D, and the reason is they don't know because they don't test everyone.
Yeah,
and maybe if you were able to, I mean, it's probably an impossible thing, but if you were able to actually test everyone, you'd probably have high levels.
And unfortunately, many of the tests are not particularly accurate either.
No.
Yeah, so many tests that people get, they're not particularly accurate. So there's a huge range of discrepancy there as well in that regard. So you're probably right that 1 billion is quite conservative, but still, even if it is a conservative number, it's ridiculous. It's good to think that many people are just deficient of vitamin D.
Yeah. Look, better health is a dynamic process. Nutrition itself, the science is new. 60, 70 years old. It's not really, okay, they knew some things years ago, but we're learning more and more, but we get more unhealthy.
As we learn more, we get more unhealthy.
As we learn, we get more unhealthy. And there's lots of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that. But like most nutritional and health factors, there is a significant amount of individuality. Okay, so as I said, what works for one may not work for the other. So it is a personal thing, and there is now a test that we can take for vitamin D deficiency. That's brand new. It looks fantastic, and if you need to do that, then get in touch with us. And
it's just to add to that, it's a highly accurate test because it meets certain guidelines and parameters that are required for it to be considered an accurate test. This is why I touched on just now that many tests that you have out there are very inaccurate. They're not as proficient as what they should be or could be. So with this particular test, it is very, very accurate because of the way in which it's done. But we're not going to go into that now because it's not about the test. This is about vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
The testing is important, because you could be, let's say after listening to this call, you might think, okay, I'm probably deficient of vitamin D, but you may get out a little bit more often than you think about, top of your head. You may consume certain foods that are increasing your D intake, things like that, and you're not really aware of it, and then you go supplement in vitamin D, and although it's not potentially life-threatening, it can cause buildup, for example, toxicity through vitamin D of overload, It can cause a buildup of calcium in your blood, for example, and things like this,
Yeah.
which is not a great thing to have in your blood.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So you need to. It's important that you don't just guess it; that you actually test it. It's very important.
Yeah, I mean, look, for many years now, we've guessed things, and the reason being is doctors and other health professionals don't want to keep sending people to tests all the time, because it works out, it would drain, like the health service in England, it would just drain it away. But there is a balance to be struck here, and maybe nutritionists and people like that are the bridge. Getting this done and not drain the health services.
Health services, yeah.
Many social and behavioural influences affect us when it comes to ability to get sufficient amounts of vitamin D through sunshine alone. Okay, which you could do if it wasn't harmful if you spend a long time in the sun. So again, it's a balancing act. Factors such as high pollution, that's one of the things that causes problems with vitamin D. Using, obviously, sunscreens, as we said. I found my own one, and I thought about it. I thought clothing, as you mentioned about the Middle East, that's another angle I was coming in on. Clothing, because we go out. I mean, I've gone out. I'm going out for a walk, and, if it's a fresh morning, sometimes you've got a hood up. Your head is not.
Yeah.
It's only going to go into your skin. Really, it's not going to go through. It's not going to go through clothing.
No, it won't. It's not.
The UVB rays, might. Yeah. The actual vitamin D, the bit you really want. No,
it's not going to penetrate. No.
No.
You need open. And this is also why so many are deficient, is because, in particular, in today's society, is because most of us are not outside when it's most relevant for us to be outside, to be absorbing vitamin D, and that's around midday time.
That's right.
We only get outside maybe early in the morning, late in the afternoon, or in the evening time. So we're not getting enough direct sunlight in order to be absorbing it. So if more people could get outside, if you're having a smoke break or a quick breather or something like that, and you're working in your office or at home, go outside for 5 minutes, just 10 minutes at a time.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, if you could get out, let's say 10 times a day for 5 minutes each time, that would probably be fine. Yeah. But think about this from a different angle. Think of depression. What's one of the things you need when you're depressed? Vitamin D.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, if you're feeling depressed, you may not want to go out, and you spend all your time indoors.
Well, that's the irony, isn't it?
And gamers are another one as well. Like spend all their time indoors. So have some breaks. All right.
Or otherwise, build your gaming setup in a conservatory.
Yeah. Living or working in cities, again, another problem. All right, because you're surrounded by buildings that are blocking sunlight. I don't know. It's something to consider. Would you agree with that?
Sure, of course. Yeah. I mean, modern day society does. The modern day lifestyle doesn't really help. It certainly doesn't. So we need to go back a little bit old school in order to counter that.
Another thing as well, body weight.
Yeah.
Body weight obviously is very, very important. It must be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking more in terms of someone with the excess weight. Maybe some people that are obese, you need more vitamin D, to be healthy.
To compensate.
And so, again, it's going to be an even harder balancing act to get it right. As we mentioned, it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so it stores away. And, as I say, you can go over the top with it as well. So, but what we need is sufficient levels in our blood, right? And again, you've got to think about what you're doing. You've got to be aware of what's happening around you and what you're doing and how you're getting your vitamin D. So, when you were a kid, Warren,
Oh,
Remember it being mentioned about vitamin D?
vitamin what?
Vitamin D and rickets.
Yeah, rickets. Yeah. I mean, rickets, but I don't, I mean, to be honest with you, nobody really spoke to me about stuff like it when I was a kid.
They did, they did to me. They did at our school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything like
You've
that.
got to drink your milk, otherwise you're going to be bow-legged.
I don't know about that. In South Africa, they just say you just eat everything and anything and get on with it.
Well, no, I agree with that, but it's just that it didn't come across exactly like that. I've got the army mentality. I eat when I can.
Yeah.
It's just food. You know, I'm not even hungry. And someone sort of brings a dinner up, and they said, "Do you?" I said, "Don't worry about being hungry. I'm just going to eat it anyway."
Yeah.
So you never know when you get your next meal, as they say.
That's me too.
Yeah. So okay. So what other ways can we be deficient, or how can it affect us? Who can it affect?
Who can it affect?
Who can it affect? Yeah. Well, in children, it's class. Is it osteomalacia? They call it.
Osteomalacia,
Poor bone density and which can be poor bone density and muscular weakness.
Osteomalacia, I think.
Have you seen a picture of your bones when they're lacking vitamin D? Have you seen them? What they look like?
No.
Loads of potholes.
Oh, okay. Like
Unbelievable,
like a porous, like a sponge.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's only adults that have osteomalacia, but obviously young kids, it's exactly the same, but it's bone softening, but it's obviously rickets or something not as bad as that. Osteoporosis is another challenge as well, and then millions of people have got this. Even people in supposedly rich countries. So again,
I mean, this is because of the nature of our diets these days, right? Our eating habits. That doesn't exactly help. So it's people are filling themselves up, but they're not eating nutritious food. Yeah, and then on top of that, they're not getting outside.
Yeah.
So
vitamin D and zinc as well, but vitamin D was one of the major things that everyone to do with the previous 18 months. Anyone in the medical profession was saying you needed vitamin D.
Yeah,
one of the biggest things.
Yeah,
I ain't going to go into that. The rest of everything else, but vitamin D and zinc. So they also said in some studies that vitamin D could help with influenza. Okay.
Oh, okay, interesting.
However, it's not been. They haven't done enough studies on it and things like that. So I would think they're probably right, but we're going to take more anyway, so it really doesn't matter. So
yeah, it doesn't. But we're going to be taking not more for the sake of taking more. We're going to be taking.
No, we're going to take it because it's good.
based on what we need.
Yeah. So, now we talked about healthy infants. I said I was going to come back to that, and So children with a deficiency of vitamin D, this isn't right across the board, but they can suffer from high blood pressure, right? As children with a low vitamin D levels. What it does, it causes stiffness in the bacterial walls, in the walls. So, and that can happen very early on, and that's worrying. If that happened in a Western society, that would be worrying. I get it. Maybe in some places in Africa and things like that, yeah, I can see that. But in the Western society, it shouldn't happen, should it? I don't think so.
Well, it shouldn't. But then again, this is a societal issue. If you look, you say Africa, unless of course you're in a war-torn region of Africa or a drought-stricken region of Africa, people eat very healthy food, man. The only drawback with African diet is the higher levels of omega-6 and fats in their diet, okay, which are not always healthy fats.
Yeah.
But unless you live in the coastal areas in Africa, you're eating loads of fish all the time, and your diet is generally very rich in nutrients, dense nutrients with healthy food groups, because the foods are typically grown a lot more naturally than in the Western world. Okay. And when we say Western world, we're obviously talking Europe, North America. And on top of that, people in Africa do get out more often. They are outside more often than not in Africa.
Yeah.
For many reasons. Not everybody drives a car, so public transport is not always readily available. And so therefore you need to be able to get outside and walk. You walk your butt off or cycle. So people are outdoors a lot more. So and the lifestyles are like that, sporty, that kind of stuff. So, we say it shouldn't be the case in the Western world, but it's more likely to be that way than it is in Africa, on average, I believe, because of the fact that our diets are just so poor in general, and people just also don't get out as much as they could do in the Western world.
And when we do go out, we should all wear them hats like the Australian men, with the
with the cork,
big wide brimmed hat with the with all the cork on it, stop all the flies.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to get one of them. Looks so stupid. No disrespect, because I don't live there.
Yeah, but it doesn't.
Someone in the UK it would look ridiculous.
It's useful.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah,
like, for example,
if I lived there, I'd have one.
Like, for example, the Arabic men, they wear on their kanduras, they have like a kind of, it's like a tassel type thing. And
I know white tassels.
Yeah, it's like a white tassel, almost like it's a part of the fabric, but it's a tassel. Then they dip it in oud, which is this very strong perfume. Okay,
all right.
Concentrated perfume. And they dip it in that because of the fact that in the summer and the heat, they're sweating. Although they are generally quite cool in those kanduras and abayas and that, they do sweat because it's the heat, and so they have that on them to keep them smelling fresh and more. You don't want to walk away from them too far. You don't want to keep a distance from them too far, because but they do have that on them, and that serves a purpose for them. Although it is a lot more discreet than a hat with corks bobbing down the side.
I get that, yeah.
No, but I'm just...
But the other thing is, do the Arabs suffer from a deficiency of vitamin D?
No, I just said earlier on, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said earlier on.
I was thinking more in terms of the women, because, obviously they have to...
No, the men as well, because the men have their heads covered up.
Have they got to have them covered up? Or is it just a weather thing?
Yeah. For example, look, it's two sides to that coin. It is encouraged because it's much like the Jews with the yarmulke on the top of their heads.
Yeah.
It's because you're under the secret message just been passed to me by
another one.
By my mother-in-law. So it's because they are God is above and they are below, and so they need to be subservient to God. It's for that reason, they cover themselves up, especially the ladies, to hide their beautiful hair, and so that they're not attracting men to them unwantedly and things like that. But you'll see many men a lot of men, they don't wear anything over their heads. The more traditional Arabs, they do. And those that are not necessarily traditional, or less traditional, but the younger generation, they do as well, but not all the men. And even so for the women, this is a choice very often. When they fully cover themselves up, that's more choice than anything else. Yeah, at least that's what I've been told, and that's my experience from living in that part of the world for so many years. But the Arabs most definitely are one of the highest population per capita that have deficiency in vitamin D. I think if we had to go test, let's just say Saudi Arabia tomorrow, we'll probably find minimum 97% of them are deficient.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yeah. So, all right, let's move on. Let's move on to healthy pregnancy. Now, you and I don't know anything about pregnancy other than what we watch when
what we've experienced throughout, secondhand.
Secondhand, we can hear it.
This is something. Anyway. This is something I've always said. Just a sidebar here. If men had every second baby, the wife had the first, the woman had the first one, the man had the second one, and the woman had the third one, we would never have more than 3 children in a family, because men would never be able to take that more than once, I think.
Oh no, I wouldn't take it once. I wouldn't. Nah. I'd rather be beaten up. Anyway, I don't need to experience it to know it will hurt. And us men are so weak, aren't we? Yeah, anyway, healthy pregnancy suggestions that pregnant women who are deficient in vitamin D will have a greater risk of developing preeclampsia. Okay.
Please enlighten us as to what.
And an early birth as well.
What's preeclampsia?
Don't know, mate. Sounds painful. So I think it's something to do with infection and things like that. And see, I knew you were going to say that. That's the only thing I didn't bloody research.
And how's eclampsia? Is it CL or KL?
CL. Okay. You can have a look at that while I'm talking. Doctors also associate poor vitamin D status with gestational diabetes and bacterial vaginosis in pregnant women.
Vaginal bacterial infections, yeah.
You can see that vitamin D is very, very important. However, on the other side of the coin, if they have too much, they have an increased risk of food allergy for the child in his or her first 2 years of birth, of life, So, again, you don't want to take too much.
Do you want me to allude as to what preeclampsia is?
Oh, yes, please do.
So, I'm reading it here verbatim, okay?
Yeah.
Is a pregnancy complication characterized by high blood pressure and signs of damage to another organ system, most often the liver and kidneys. Preeclampsia usually begins after 20 weeks of pregnancy in women whose blood pressure had been normal.
Ah, very good. Very good.
And this is the thing. Remember now, and I'm pretty sure most mothers today don't even factor this in. That when you are pregnant, you have another body inside of you that needs more, if not as much as, if not more, nutrients than you need in order to keep it going, yourself and the baby alive. So that baby's drawing so much from you, and this is why most women suffer from brain fog in the third trimester, because the baby is now using the fatty acids. For brain development. And this is the same throughout your pregnancy for vitamin, nutrients, minerals that the baby needs. It's absorbing that from you. So you need to then be taking, possibly depending on your levels, your existing levels, your pre-existing levels, you probably need to be taking a little bit more.
Okay.
But then again, you should have that tested as well to make sure that you do need to take more. Don't just take more for the sake of it.
So let's move on to deficiencies and some of the reasons why we are deficient. Now, not necessarily everyone, but people with darker skin, for example, and sunscreen, and they both reduce the body's ability to absorb the UVB rays from the sun. So, and again, absorbing sunlight is essential for the skin to produce vitamin D. So, sunscreen, another one. If you use a sun's SPF of 30, that can reduce the body's ability to synthesize the vitamin by 95% or more. Covering the skin with clothing can inhibit vitamin D production also. So, as we've spoken about.
Unless you're wearing light clothing, maybe.
Yeah.
But otherwise,
Geographical location. People live in northern latitudes or areas of high pollution and who work night shifts. Okay, so people who work night shifts have got to be careful of their vitamin D intake. And as well as
unless you're suntanning on the beach while you're sleeping during the day, then
that's a bit dangerous as well, isn't it? So
I've seen people that have fallen asleep too long on the beach and they wake up like a lobster.
Yeah.
Yeah, so be very careful.
Breastfeeding. I haven't done too much of that I know of. Infants who exclusively breastfeed need a vitamin D supplement, especially if they have dark skin, as we mentioned, or have minimal sun exposure. So, very important.
And the symptoms of deficiency of vitamin D.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The symptoms, regular sickness or infection. So if you pick up lots of infections, you may well have a vitamin D deficiency. We mentioned
bone pain.
Sorry?
Bone pain or paining in the bones as well.
Yeah, back pain.
No, bone, not back, bone.
No, bone and back pain. They're both separate ones.
Separate ones.
But you're going to ache. Vitamin D, you'll ache, and you'll have a pretty good idea. And you mentioned earlier, important one, low mood.
Low mood, yeah.
The other thing is not only do you need vitamin C for wound healing, you also need vitamin D. Okay. And also hair loss. I had to laugh at this one, but I don't think they mean people that go bald. What I think they mean is things like alopecia, where people suddenly have a loss of hair.
They shed. Yeah.
They shed, yes. And they get little bald patches, which affects women a lot. Men, you get it all. It all goes. But women, it's even worse because they've got patches. Nothing worse than patches.
If you're experiencing muscle cramps a lot as well, like muscle fatigue, muscle cramps, cramping a lot, muscle weakness a lot, there's a few more symptoms for you.
Well, the symptoms that we mentioned are very important to pay attention to, all right?
Sure.
And it is about awareness. However, even worse than that is that if you allow it to continue for long periods of time, there could be complications, right? And the complications could be autoimmune problems, neurological, cardiovascular, infections we mentioned, and they can just get worse and worse. And we've seen
vascular
infections can make you lose limbs. So, pregnancy complications we mentioned. Certain cancers as well was another one, especially breast, prostate, and colon cancer. So, again, very, very important. So, where do we get our vitamin C from? The sources of vitamin C, where do we get them from?
Vitamin C or vitamin D?
Vitamin D, sorry. Did I say C?
You did, indeed.
You probably get C out of some of these as well, but... But vitamin D, yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've touched on the most. I mean, it's not a source of vitamin D. It's just enables our bodies to produce vitamin D.
That's right. Yeah,
the sunshine, of course. The yolk from eggs.
Absolutely, egg yolks. Yeah, definitely.
Milk.
Yeah, fortified milk.
Fortified milk. Ooh.
Fortified milk. Yes.
Okay.
So, what else?
Where else? I'm thinking now. There's one that, I mean, you're going to consume it, but I just always advise people just to be cautious when consuming this. Is like salmon, for example.
Okay.
You're gonna get vitamin D from that as a source for vitamin D, but just moderation in terms of salmon consumption. Eating in moderation.
Also, they recommend mackerel and tuna. So any fatty fish. Cheese is another one.
Oh yes. Okay.
Yeah, I like cheese. Probably have sometimes a bit too much, but beef liver.
Ooh.
Yeah. Mushrooms.
I eat a lot of mushrooms.
Yeah, I love mushrooms. And the other one is fortified cereals and juices. Now, if we're just talking about vitamin D, then I'd have to go with that. But there's other factors to take into account with everything else.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, even like, for example, you could get vitamin D from orange juice, but how much fiber is in that? And it's just a lot of sugar, So it's you got to be careful with that too. Now, also, this is another thing as well, is that people might know this, or they might get told this, that you can get it from something like, say, for example, cod liver oil.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Fine. But what is the cod liver oil actually working inside your body when you consume it? This is the thing. So if you're eating it from it, like you consuming a food like cheese or eggs, you're getting a lot of other nutrient benefits from that. But if you're having something like cod liver oil, because you're thinking you're getting omega-3 and you're having vitamin D, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually working in your body. Okay, because cod liver oil doesn't last for very long inside the system, in the body. It becomes rancid quite quickly in about the space of about 15 hours. And that needs to be doing its job, but needs a lot longer period of time to be doing its job properly. So therefore, the vitamin D becomes ineffectual if you're consuming it for that purpose. So, just be careful, but just be mindful. You don't want to be wasting your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is about the amount of levels of vitamin D that you can take, and it's different for different ages, different for pregnant and lactating women. And I would suggest, rather than us filling you with facts and figures, you go and research it yourself. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, sensible sun exposure on bare skin, they suggest 5 to 10 minutes. 2 to 3 times a week, and they say that should produce sufficient vitamin D. Now, what they also say is vitamin D does break down very quickly, meaning the stores, even those stores in your liver, can run low, and especially in winter. Okay, very, very important to know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything we've missed at all?
No, I don't think there's anything we have missed that's more important or relevant than what we've said already.
Oh, there is one other bit. I missed it, and that was the most common symptoms of excessive vitamin D include headache and nausea, loss of appetite, dry mouth, a metallic taste in your mouth.
Oh yeah.
If you're vomiting a lot. Constipation and diarrhea. So again, if you're taking a vitamin D supplement, then you just got to be careful. You just got to pay attention to everything. The upper limit for the healthcare professionals, they say, is 4,000 international units per day. However, the National Institute of Health, NIH, say that vitamin D toxicity is unlikely at intakes under 10,000 units a day. So I don't know about that. All I would say is, from a common sense angle, I would say pay attention. Yeah, don't go mad either way. Don't go without things, but don't go over the top with them. And with that, I think really we're done with vitamin D for the moment. I'm sure we're gonna come back and speak about it again, and when we know a little bit more about the testing and everything. So yeah. So, but they do. I mean, look, they do say that 60 seconds of UVA exposure to the sun can increase your risk of melanoma. So again, you have to decide for yourself. And I like the fact when they said 10 to 15 minutes, 2 to 3 times a week.
I think in terms of melanoma, 60 seconds, that's if you're lying on a tarmac in the heat of the day.
Yeah, I mean, they are taking it to the nth degree.
Yeah, so maybe you're sitting in the water somewhere in the sea, and that's you're more at risk. So I think they are taking it to the nth degree there.
Yeah. I know, but if they make a comment about it, there must be something in it. So again, it depends where you live, what you do. Be reasonable with everything you do. All right.
Sure, with anything in life, right? Just
absolutely. Yeah. So again, it's very, very, very important that you do have some. Don't go mad.
Yeah.
Just make it part of your diet and everything. So you should be okay.
It's the same as having fun. You want to have some, but if you're just laughing, running around, giggling, laughing all day and looking crazy, people are going to lock you up.
bit like drinking beer, really.
Yeah, so just
And probably everything else. All right, lovely. We're done here. I think we've done 45 minutes. And if anyone's got any questions about anything, let us know, and we'll get the answers.
I'm sure some of you do have questions, so don't be shy to ask.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not the experts. We just happen to have the
Interest.
information and the
Passion and interest.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anyway, have a fantastic rest of the week, everyone. And we will speak next Wednesday on healthierlife.tv.
Arrivederci.
See you later.